You're about to listen to a podcast episode that completely changed my life. I was going through some of my old YouTube videos and I found a video that somehow I forgot to post it. I guess I never posted it. And it's all about stop allowing yourself to be distracted when someone else is on the dance floor dancing. In other words, someone's out there putting out that negative energy. Someone, maybe is giving you the silent treatment or whatever it is. I used to think if someone else is having a bad day, especially if it's someone close to me, then my day's messed up. And this is one of those moments when I realize, wait a minute. I don't need to be distracted by this. I'm going to get my butt off this dance floor and leave this person dancing alone and go ahead and do what I got to do. So anyway, this is a previously recorded video. It's an old YouTube video I recorded a while ago. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we found it. And I decided to go ahead and share it anyway. I love you all, and I pray to God it was meant for someone. So I'm looking forward to your comments to see, was this video meant for you? I love you. Be encouraged. Hello, everyone. You're listening to Unlocking Greatness podcast with Zenja Glass. My name is Z. I want to talk about a topic, and I think I'm going to call this Stop Dancing, or I might call it Leave the Dance Floor, something like that. Someone in the community sent a message to me, and paraphrasing the message, she said something like, someone always seems to sort of have an attitude with her, and she'll ask what they say, and they really don't tell her what's wrong, and just what do I do about that? And it immediately made me start thinking about something I learned many years ago when a dear friend of mine taught me about someone dancing on a dance floor. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. When someone is dancing on a dance floor, how do you handle it? I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it, but then what was really ironic is the very next day, I got a call from a lady who I've led many Bible study groups, and I used to lead these 30-week sessions called Spiritual Discovery. And I'm going to have the author of Spiritual Discovery, the authors, Kathy Hyman and Virginia Leffler, on this podcast as soon as she's done with her meditation series. But I remember a long time ago, a dear friend of mine and author, Virginia and Kathy, taught me. They said, Z, imagine, let me back up a second. Let me just slow down. So the issue that I was having was I didn't know it was possible for me to still have a good day or to be about my purpose in life or to do what I needed to do if other people around me were in a bad mood. And I remember sometimes I used to walk in my household, and this is years ago because by the grace of God, I've grown and God has blessed me with wisdom in this area. But I used to walk into my household, and before I even opened the door, I used to think to myself, okay, what kind of mood are people going to be in today? I'm talking about my whole household. What kind of day am I going to have today? Because my day was always based off the mood of others, if that makes sense. I didn't know it was possible. Listen to me carefully. I did not know it was possible if someone's having a bad day, or if they're in a negative, or if you're in a negative environment, or if people are, let's just say like not speaking to you, or they have an attitude and you've asked them what's wrong, but they're saying there's nothing wrong, but you can tell that there is. I did not know. I had no idea that it was possible. I could actually still have a good day. I could actually still be about my purpose, and I can actually go about and do the things I need to do and not kind of walk on eggshells because the people in my surroundings, and I'm not just talking home. It could be at work, it could be at school, whatever your situation is. So this is not about, just at home, even though I did have some issues at that time as well. But in whatever environment, I just didn't know that I had a choice in that, and that God had given me power to be able to stand in that moment. I honest to God, just did not know. And so in one of the classes I used to lead, and I say used to because I just started slowing down since my son, my son is passed now, but prior, when my son was in the hospital for a very long time, I had to hold off leading my session groups that I normally lead with women in my area. But anyway, I don't want to lose my point. I remember having the women in my group, and one of them recently called me and she just said, Z, that class that you used to lead has helped me so much, you just have no idea, and how it's kind of changed my life. And so because someone in the community made a comment, and then a person from that class out of the blue called or texted me and told me those things, I thought, you know what? I need to make sure that other people have this advice as well. And I pray that it blesses you. So the premise of it is when someone's dancing on a dance floor, that doesn't mean that you have to join that dance. So just because someone's dancing doesn't mean you have to join it. You can actually get off the dance floor and leave them dancing by themselves until eventually they're tired of dancing by themselves and they sit down. As odd as that sounds, just picture that in your head. That's kind of what happens when you're in a situation, especially when you're dealing with, people that are adults. But when you're in a situation where someone is like not speaking to you or have a bad attitude, or, like I said, you know something's wrong, but they don't want to tell you. And you've done everything you can to try to figure out, like, okay, what did I do wrong today? Well, what is going on now? Well, why does this person have attitude? Well, now what's going on? You've got to realize, and this is what's beautiful about what I learned, is that, number one, that's a distraction. Number two, some people call that king baby, or they call that big baby, depending on what kind of counselor you're talking to, or what profession of psychology or what have you. And I don't want to get into their, all of that, because I don't claim to be some expert, and I'm only going from what I was taught. But depending on, what I guess I should say. Where someone's training's from, they have different words for it. So the two that I remember is something called big baby or something called king baby. And they kind of refer that to almost like an adult who is basically in the middle of the floor, like a baby throwing a tantrum, so to speak. And their way of throwing a tantrum is, I'm going to give you the silent treatment, or I'm not going to speak to you, or I'm not going to respond to you, or I'm going to be mad, but I'm not going to tell you why I'm mad. So just kind of imagine that almost like a big adult grown person sitting in the middle of the floor, throwing a tantrum or throwing a fit. That's kind of how, I hope I'm remembering it right, how it was told to me. So if there's any psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors or whatever in this session, and if I'm off a little bit, you can feel free to correct me. But from what I recall, that's kind of how it was explained to me. That, there are situations where people use the silent treatment, or I'm going to be mad at you, but I'm not going to tell you why, as a way to get more attention for themselves. And the more you're kind of walking on eggshells around them, and the more you're kind of trying to figure out what you did wrong, and now you feel bad, and you're sitting over in a corner crying and unhappy in life, that actually feeds them more and more. So picture that like a big adult baby in the middle of the floor throwing a tantrum, and you're giving all that attention to it. Well, my friend who led these classes kind of put a new spin on it, and she said, Z, that's almost like someone dancing on a dance floor. And when she gave me that visual, I just can't begin to tell you what that did for me. Because then when I was faced in those situations, I literally would picture to myself, and I would just picture and think, oh, that person's dancing right now. And I would think to myself, oh, I don't have to join that dance. Now, I completely believe in walking in humility. Let me just say that. And I believe if you've hurt somebody, or if God has put something in your heart and shown you that you mistreated someone, you need to respond in humility, and you need to apologize, because not everyone is as emotionally intelligent and they're able to communicate, what you've done to them to hurt them. So I want to put that little disclaimer on it. But when you've done everything you know to do, and you're dealing with a person, or, people that this is sort of their style, this is just what they do because they know it's going to give them that attention, because now your day's going to be thrown off because they're sitting there frowning and not speaking and having an attitude. I pray that the next time that happens, you picture someone dancing on the floor, and you just say to yourself, I'm going to get off of this dance floor. I can't join that dance. I'm going to pray for this person. And Lord, please show me if I've done anything wrong so that I can repent. I think that's extremely important. But my goodness, if God has placed on your heart, if there's nothing that God has placed on your heart in terms of what you've done wrong, or this person's not going to speak to you about it, or what have you, or forget about them having an attitude. Let's just say that they're just spewing a lot of negativity in your life. You have the right to get off of that dance floor and to go about your business and do the things that you have to do. Does that make sense? Hello, everyone. Just as a reminder, Necessary is now available as a paperback as well as a digital copy. More details can be found on my website at unlockinggreatness.com. And if you're interested in going on a retreat, an entire 12 to 14 week transformational journey, it's an online self-paced retreat based on the book Necessary. More details are on my website for that as well. I love you all. Let's get back to the video. And leave that person dancing and pray for that person. And I want to say a living witness to tell you that has been some of the best advice I've ever gotten in my life, because what I didn't realize, here's what I didn't realize. I didn't see it as a distraction. I just saw it as, man, why is there always something wrong? Why is this person always upset at me? Or why is this person always in a negative mood? And I didn't realize that that's what always got me off track, because I'm trying to sit over here and do this or listen to what God is telling me to do here or what have you. I just didn't realize that it's kind of hard to be creative or feel enthusiastic about something or to want to, I don't know, serve or give or help somebody do anything when you feel the mood around you and the environment around you is just negative, or someone's just always got an attitude of mad about something. But I want to tell you that by the grace of God and just the power and the love that he's given us, we don't have to live like that. And I don't mean walking in pride and in arrogance. I do mean walking in humility, because if you've hurt somebody, you need to apologize, you need to repent. But I didn't realize that I can, for example, walk into my household, and if I sense that and that's going on, and let's just say if there's someone not willing to talk or tell me what I did wrong or what have you, and I can't think of anything, and I'm asking God to show me, but this is just this person's mode or what they want to do, I took my little butt upstairs, started on books that I didn't get a chance to finish reading. I'd go in my closet, listen to my gospel music. I would go for a nice little prayer walk. Work on some projects I didn't get done yet. I mean, literally it got to a point where I got so good at it, I'm like, oh, God has given me some time to really focus on him, or to really focus on this thing that I need to do. And eventually, and I'm telling you, this happens eventually. And again, this isn't just about being at work, at home. It could be work, it could be school, it can be whatever environment. Eventually, just as my dear friend taught me, those people stopped dancing on the dance floor and sat down because it no longer worked, and they didn't get the attention that they were trying to get, this negative attention. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anybody's special counselor, and I just want to make that clear. I can only share with you from my heart the things that's pivoted and changed my life. And I just felt compelled to talk about this because it was so pivotal. And eventually you will get to a point where, you still love and pray for these people. And I'll be honest with you, during those times, God put so much in my heart that I needed to change and do, and he still does. But anyway, that I began to make sure that I was cautious of how I was reacting or being around those people, and making sure that I'm showing more love and that I'm walking in humility and doing everything that I know to do to walk as God wants me to walk. So I just want to make that clear. It wasn't all about somebody else was all negative and wrong, and I was the little angel in the room. That was not the case. So God did definitely work on me. But I tell you this, that dance absolutely stopped when I got off the floor. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're kind of faced with that where you feel stuck. And the reason why I really wanted to talk about this is I just remember some of the faces of the women in these groups that I used to lead. We used to meet together once a week, I think it was, or was it twice a week? For like 30 weeks, these sessions that I used to lead. I remember their faces when we would get to this point in the Bible study series. And you can see almost that they realized, oh my God, I didn't realize that I can still stand in a situation like this. God always provides a way out for us to stand. And I just remember just they're like, kind of the same shock that I had when I first found out. I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was an option for me to get off the dance floor. I always thought that, if somebody's dancing, I got to dance with them. So anyway, I hope that kind of makes some sense. I was reading, I've been reading in Matthew, something's just been compelling me to just read the story of Jesus. So, you can read Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, any of the Gospels. And what I loved about his stories, his life, I should say, is I was just reading through some things from Matthew chapter 12 on Lord of the Sabbath. And the reason I was reading that is simply because, the Pharisees and Sadducees are always were coming at Jesus about something. And, there was a part in there where when Jesus and his disciples were walking and they were hungry and his disciples started picking some of the heads of grain. I'm in Matthew chapter 12, and I'm just paraphrasing. But they began picking some of the heads of grain. And when the Pharisees, in verse 2, it says, when the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath. And then I just love how, Jesus just responded to them, when he goes on to talk about, haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for the priest. Or haven't you read in the law that on the Sabbath, the priests in the temples desecrate the day and yet are innocent? I tell you that one greater than the temple was here. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. Then going a little further in verse 9, going on from that place, he went into their synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, they asked him, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? Jesus said to them, if any one of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a man than a sheep? Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. And then Jesus went on and healed the man. I mean, I can just go on and on with all of the healing that Jesus did. I thought about also when they brought the lady before him that committed adultery. I thought about all the times that they tried to corner him with something. And I was just reading through different parables. What I loved, through different passages, I should say, what I loved and what I thought about is, oh my goodness, there was always people dancing on the dance floor in front of Jesus. And he never danced with them. He always stayed off the dance floor and stayed true to his purpose and what he had to do. You don't read any passages about him going off to the side and doubting who he was or feeling miserable because, of what people said to him or this or that. He always stayed focused all the way up to his death, really. Even when he went before Pilate, I wasn't planning on reading that, but even when he went before Pilate, and Pilate was basically saying to him, hey, don't you know who I am? I have the power to do this and that. And Jesus is like, no, not really. What the premise of what I'm getting at is Jesus never got on the dance floor with any of them. He always stayed focused on what he was about. And our negativity we deal with has very little to do with the negativity that Jesus was dealing with. When I say that they were coming at him left and right and trying to find ways to take his life, but he always stayed focused and stayed off that floor. So I just want to encourage you with this. God has always given us the ability to stand, and no matter what the situations, how the situation is. And so if you're faced with a situation where you're like, Z, you just don't know how bad things are at home or how bad things are in this roommate situation or how bad things are in whatever, I would say to you this. If you're dealing with something like that, where someone is being that negative like that, and you walk in a room and they're not wanting to talk to you and they're not wanting to what have you, and they're saying to you there's nothing wrong, but you sense there's an attitude, I would say get off of that dance floor. Go spend some time in the presence of your Father. Ask him for wisdom and guidance on how to live your life and what decisions you need to make and what you need to do. Ask him. That shouldn't come from me, but ask him. And you stay off that dance floor and stay true to the things that God is putting in front of you. So I hope that this little lesson made sense. And the whole premise of it is to stop dancing. Get off of the dance floor. Whenever you're faced in situations where someone is dancing in a room and you walk in that room and you see that dance, say to yourself, they're dancing right now. I'm going to exit this dance floor. And I just want to gently remind you, please do that in humility. Okay, not a prideful attitude like, well, you got attitude, I'm going to have an attitude too. Not that. Be in humility. Just say, you know what, Lord, if they don't want to deal with this right now and this person don't want to talk to me, I clearly don't know what I've done. God, if there's anything that I've done, please forgive me and tell me, show me, because they're not willing to talk. Get off of that dance floor and continue on with the purpose and the mission that God has for you in your life. Because at the end of the day, much of it is a big distraction. I love you all. This is Z with Unlocking Greatness Podcast, and I pray that you are encouraged. Bye-bye.